My name is Bruce Silverglade. I am the owner of Gleason's Gym, and we are at Gleason's Gym, 77 Front Street, Brooklyn, New York. The gym started in 1937 in the Bronx, New York, and it was in the Bronx from 1937 to 1974 when it relocated to Manhattan, and we were on the corner of 30th and 8th from 1974 to 1984, and we moved once again to our current location in Dumbo, Brooklyn. During this period, we've had 131 professional world champions. Some of the names you might recognize are Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson. The first champion was Jake LaMotta, the Raging Bull, Roberto Duran. We had some fighters that never won a title, but they were very popular, like Jerry Cooney. We currently have 7 world champions training here. 5 of them are females, and it's the first time in our history that we have more female champions than we do male champions. We've also had 2 fellows that won Olympic gold medals. We've won the New York City Golden Gloves team trophy for the last 18 years in a row. I come from a boxing family. My father was involved with boxing his entire life. He's one of the founders of the Police Athletic League, and he worked for the United States Olympic Center. I graduated college and went to work for Sears Roebuck and Company. I was not interested in following my father's footsteps. However, circumstances changed, and my hobbies were changing, and I got involved with boxing on an amateur level in New York. I was a referee and a judge. Became the president of amateur boxing in New York, and the national chairman of the Junior Olympic program out of Colorado Springs. And during this period, I was going in and out of all the gyms. And one day I walked into Gleason's, and the owner at that time, a fellow by the name of Ira Becker, mentioned that he wanted a partner. So the next day I resigned. I took my profit sharing and I bought the company. In 1991, Ira Becker passed away, so I've had the gym solely since then, and it was a very, very great move, and something that's been very rewarding ever since. Virgil has a quote that was in the book 5 of the Aeneid, and my late partner Ira Becker found this quote. It has to do with the Greeks having a lot of heart, and those people that had the courage to lace on the gloves and show this courage became fighters. And so we have a copy of that quote on our wall, and also on all of our websites and all of our shirts and sweatshirts, etc. So it's something that we live by up here. I have an opinion of MMA, mixed martial arts, along age lines. I'm a traditionalist. I'm a boxing lover, and I think that boxing and mixed martial arts are completely separate sports and have separate places for the public. I believe that everything goes in cycles, and boxing also goes in cycles. We have high points and low points. There have been many times throughout the years when boxing has been banned. There have been other times when we've been in the golden ages of boxing. Right now we're looking for the next savior of boxing to come along. Mixed martial arts has come along, and I believe the popularity of mixed martial arts is only such because the cycle of boxing is in a low cycle. So I think that it will continue. Mixed martial arts will continue to be popular until boxing comes back into its heyday and has another golden age. And I think more people will then go and watch boxing as opposed to MMA. To me, it's not as interesting as boxing. However, it certainly is interesting to a lot of people. It has a large viewership. It's doing very well on pay-per-view, and I wish it a lot of success. It will shortly be approved in the state of New York, at which point I hope to have a lot of the MMA guys training over here. You know, everything has its ups and downs. Everything goes in cycles. Boxing is in a low cycle. There are a number of reasons as far as I'm concerned. The networks, CBS, ABC, NBC, are no longer showing boxing. Once they stopped showing boxing, it no longer became an armchair sport, so people don't know it as well as they did in the past. Money has certainly hurt the sport of boxing. It's brought millions of dollars in for a small group of people. It's not spread around like it was 20 or 30 years ago. At one point in New York, there were arenas in each of the boroughs. A couple of the boroughs had 2 arenas, and there was boxing 5 nights a week. So a person could come into the sport and make a living at boxing. He could go from one fight to another fight and sustain himself and his family. Today, that's not possible. There are many fewer fights, and beginning fighters have to work for a living, and boxing is really becoming a part-time sport for them. So that's hurt it. Amateur fighters at one point had 100 or plus fights with many international competitions. Today, the average amateur fighter has 25 or 30 fights. Same thing in the professional levels. At one point, professional fighters had 100 or more fights. Today, your real good fighters have 35, 40 fights, and again, it's because of the money situation. Also, you had the popularity of boxing as a household sport. There was a time when there was a very small baseball season and a very small football season with very little activity in between, and boxing filled that for everyone. Today, there are so many sports that take up airtime that boxing has been left behind. So there are a number of reasons why boxing isn't at its heyday. But when you get an exciting fighter in there, when you get another Muhammad Ali, or you get another young Mike Tyson, or you get another Sugar Ray Leonard, and it's going to be a very exciting sport, and it will certainly come back. Boxing is one of the sports that you can still compare athletes of today with the athletes of yesterday. The sport hasn't changed. Okay, you have a ring. The size of the ring is pretty much the same as it has been for years, and you have 2 individuals that go in there and face one another off with gloves on, and they try to use their skill and their speed and their ability to outwit and outbox the other person and determine a winner. A gym today, you don't need any fancy equipment to go in there. You can get yourself in shape by running on the outside and coming in here and using the boxing circuit, the heavy bags, the speed bags, etc., to learn the skill. You need a good trainer to learn your skill, and then you need a good heart and mind to carry out the skills. But the boxers today are not as experienced as the boxers previous years, for many of the reasons that I've just stated, and therefore I don't think that their ability level is the same. I believe you'll have this argument forever. Younger people think that their athletes of their time are much superior to athletes of the previous decades, and it's always going to be that way. So I'm 62 years of age. I think the fighters of my era and a little bit before I got involved are much superior to the boxers today. Take Sugar Ray Robinson and Jake LaMotta. They had 6 epic battles. In one 2-week period, they fought for the world title twice. That's not going to happen today. Jake LaMotta had well over 150 fights. Sugar Ray Robinson had well over 200 fights. That's not going to happen today. So the experience level of the fighters and the quality of the fighters, I believe, was better when they had more experience and were fighting more than today, when you have someone like Floyd Mayweather claiming to be the greatest athlete, greatest boxer of all time, with under 50 fights. It's difficult to say how he would compare against someone of 30 or 40 years ago. And that's another great thing about boxing. Boxing is completely subjective. You have 3 judges in the professional ranks, 5 judges in the amateur ranks judging a contest, and then you have the thousands of people in the audience judging it, and there's always a split decision. There's very few times, if ever, a unanimous decision with the audience as well as the judges. So it's subjective, and it's going to continue to be subjective. But boxing today is no different. The sport is no different today than it was 30, 40 years ago or 100 years ago. What's different is the athletes today. The athletes now have managers, they have agents, they have weight trainers, they have everything but boxing trainers, and that's what's hurting the fighters of today. It's so good having you here at Gleason's Gym. We're located in Dumbo, Brooklyn, which is 77 Front Street. We have a website of www.gleasonsgym.net, and we have an email address of info@gleasonsgym.net. So thank you very much for coming, and we hope to see more of you up here at Gleason's Gym.
This video is sponsored by Hoodlum Fight Gear. Check out their gear and apparel at hoodlumfightgear.com.